Welcome back to the Midlife Maverick podcast, the show for men who want to reclaim their vitality, purpose, and freedom in the second half of life. Today, I'm joined by Schnepf, a researcher, speaker, and creator of the GoodTime ratio, a fascinating new way to measure fulfillment and flow in your daily life. Christian shares his powerful story of chasing the traditional definition of success, the business, the money, the status, the material things, only to find himself empty and suicidal in his 20s. That breakdown became the turning point that led him to study happiness, purpose, and the science of what he calls good times. Today, we unpack Christian's story from burnout to breakthrough, why self-care isn't selfish, and how data can actually help you live a more meaningful and energized life. Christian, welcome to the Midlife Mavericks podcast.
Thank you, Stretch, for having me.
I'm looking forward to it, mate. We're going to have a good chat about the good times, which is something I believe all men in midlife are looking for more of. So it'll be good to dive in and talk about that. Before I start, there's a couple of questions I always like to ask at the beginning of the episode. And the first one goes, if you and I were to be boarding an airplane, where would that plane be heading? Do you have a favorite holiday destination, or is there a bucket list item that you want to tick off?
That's a very good question. I think perhaps we would head to Japan. At least that's something I feel attracted to explore. I haven't been there yet, even though I lived for a long time in China. But Japan has something of self-control in their culture, and traditionally also embracing the broken parts and learning from it and making it even better. And I like to learn from such a culture in the traditional way, and learning basically to become the best version of myself with a respect to the other people around me. So if you were flying with me, I think that would be a great journey of exploration of yourself, of myself, and each other, and for growth.
Yeah, wicked, mate. It's surprising how many people say Japan. At the moment, I think 90% of my guests have all said Japan, and I've been to Japan, and I totally understand why.
Okay.
I'd love to get back there, and I'd love to immerse myself in more of the culture. It's a very, very different culture from what we have here in Australia. But there's a lot to learn from those guys. If we were on this plane and we were to spark up a conversation, get to know each other a little bit, and I was to ask you about your purpose and mission in life right now, what would you say?
I would say to maximize good times and making it a priority for the world to orientate on.
That's powerful, and I want to tap into that, mate. So let's begin. Let's begin.
Okay.
I assume, like most guys listening to this podcast right now, you grew up probably following the standard script, the normal script, and I want to know a bit more about it. So if you were to rewind the clock, what was the younger version of Christian like?
The younger version of me, where do we start? Perhaps as a teenager. That's where I got the first little epiphany of that I don't want to follow that path. I grew up regularly with weekend parties and school. I really hated school. However, I had a band, and I loved playing the drums and performing, and I had dreams, and I wanted to inspire my friends to go after a great life. And I found, however, that most friends just started with something for a week, like learning the guitar, and then dropped it again. And that they started to accept the age of 16, 17, that life is supposed to be as we've been shown. So go to work from morning till evening, and then eventually the weekend you celebrate whatever you're going to celebrate. I don't know what you're celebrating here, but you celebrate. And then at the end, you're going to have a wife, you're going to have a house, you have kids, and then this is it. And this really didn't get me, especially if I took a look around how most people live. And apparently they were not really satisfied. At least they did not have an excitement in their eyes for what it has life to offer. So I remember on the party where I was walking with a friend, instead of sitting there or celebrating, I was walking around and questioned, is this all there is? However, I put that thought a little bit apart for some years and went to university. And for whatever reason, I lost a little bit that pursuit of it got to be the greatest life. I wouldn't even say so. It got to be a different life. I put that thought a little bit aside and just pursued the standard definition of success. So age 20, 21, I could make a check mark behind the labels. I had my own business. I had money. I traveled every week, thousands of kilometers. I gave speeches. I had good grades. I was next to during my studies even, and was in a good shape, had friends. The last missing piece was a girlfriend, but after I realized that this is a missing piece, I got that as well. And then, yeah, I got suicidal because I realized it's fucking empty. It's just not, there's nothing really that makes it worth pursuing for long. I mean, I could predict where life is going for the next 80 years if I'm lucky, or 60 years according to standard life expectancy. So it's just the same, a little bit bigger. And if something is not fulfilling, doing more of it won't change it. So I really started questioning the point of being alive. And that's where I also withdrew myself from the things I were doing. And it wasn't bad to the time. It was going well, no suffer, but empty. And so I got this thought like, if this is all there is, then I can just end it here, but it's not bad. So I just tolerated basically to be alive and kept going. But as I lost the motivation to be ambitious and go on, also slowly things fell apart. I mean, I had conflicts one after the other slowly because whatever, I dropped my health. I didn't go to the gym anymore. I started working until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. eventually. It became insane and not a real goal in mind. And that's where I slowly withdrew and asked myself, do I want to have this life or not?
Wow, man. Thanks for sharing that. That takes courage. Not an easy thing to admit. I'm curious, what do you think led to that for you?
To what exactly do you mean?
What
To
do
the
you think
emptiness?
led to that sort of downward spiral? It sounds like maybe, you had this idea of, okay, the standard version of success wasn't what you wanted at an early age by the sounds of it. But then you still, as we do, we fall in line, we go to university, we chase the career, maybe we chase the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
the house, the white picket fence, the car, whatever it is, that's the
Yeah.
standard sort of model, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you aligned yourself sort of with that for a little bit, but then it obviously downward spiraled. Do you have a recognition of maybe what led to that? Was it out of alignment, or how do you feel that sort of happened?
I think if I had to pinpoint, it's probably the lack of an alternative outlook. I mean, this is all that what I've been told is. So all the things I said are in a good shape. Have a girlfriend, have a business, travel, get acknowledgement, have high education and recognition for that. And this was it. I mean, I didn't know anything else that life had to offer besides that. And that was the blueprint of society. And it wasn't fulfilling. So for me, basically, lack of an aspirational outlook, something I can look forward to. And that's obviously not, if nothing is pulling you, the only thing that keeps you moving is pain. But I wasn't motivated by that one because there was no point to keep going. So that let me slowly give up on the things that usually that gave up on self-care, I gave up on the things that usually were important for a long time, to being sustainable for the long time. But if you say the longer I'm alive, it's not adding value to my life. So sustaining that neither. So what's the point of doing that?
From the outside, it sounds like you're ticking all the boxes, but on the inside, you're falling apart. At what point did you find hope, or what led to the change, do you feel, and to have you here with us today?
Actually, a very little side note of a conversation I had with a friend. It was a spark where we had this conversation, and I talked with people about my issue and that I don't see a point. was crying, and she said, the tragedy would be if one day in 10 years or so, you have the perfect life and you really love it. And you look back and said, I almost gave up on that. And it wasn't so much what she said. It was, for me, this thought, wait a moment, there is another option. It could be possible that I actually love my life. It was that I didn't think of that. And I thought like, wow, wait, I always thought like life sucks or life ends. And there's a third option. That I didn't think of that. And then I started going more in that direction. And as the suicidal thoughts were conflicting with that thought, and that thought grew, I entertained that thought of could be good. I made a decision eventually and said, okay, you got to make a decision, end it or go on. But if you go on, then do things drastically differently. So it's a bonus round. And that's what I did eventually. It took me a while to make this shift from, make this 180-degree shift, slowly building myself up, but I at least had a new objective. I had an outlook and that I have a goal to love life again. And now is the question, how do I get there? And if my environment can't tell me, well, I got to figure it out, but I'm not going to step in the same issue again. Truth be told, I did some years later, but I realized it much faster. I've been in a bigger business, led a team of 70, 75 people, traveled even more. However, I realized very fast, I think after 2 months or so in that situation, I'm wasting my life again. And this is not it. So got the next promotion job offer, but I rejected it and said, nah, gonna find something different. Yeah.
It's a great story, mate, and I'm glad that you made that decision, and I'm glad that you're here to share that story today. Because I feel that a lot of men get trapped in a life that maybe doesn't bring them the joy, the satisfaction that they want, and they feel trapped being the provider, working harder, doing more, but really not living up to, the things that matter most to them in their life. And it sounds like you've managed to jump off that rail and jump onto a rail that's serving you. In this time when you're starting to work on this change, I'm curious to learn what was helping, what was giving you that purpose to go on, and what did you find the most beneficial?
What I always like to emphasize that really helped me is generally looking for the things that motivate me to do it. So looking for a reason, something I can look forward to. So nowadays, with the science of good times and even my app, I can pinpoint all of that. However, back then I was more or less guessing into it and was an idea. So back then when I was lost, I realized, okay, I'm having a lack of structure. So I need structure. I was self-employed before, but as I didn't see a purpose in it, well, you don't keep the structure up. So in that moment, I realized I need a bit of structure. So I were looking for how I can get structure and can get raised basically further with some guidance. And the two things I did was I signed up for something a year later that I know, it was a master's degree that I know it's in the city I want to be. And it's something I'm kind of interested in, and I can learn from people who somehow have their stuff more together. At least it somehow seems to work for them. Yeah, I had my stuff together before as well, but I needed to get my stuff together again. And the other thing what I did is along the way, actually two more things I did, but along the way is I signed up for something. I said that is fun and it's frequent. And it was a dance course. It wasn't a couple dance course because I did this before. And then if your partner says, I can't do the day, you're depending on this. But I didn't want to have any excuse to go every week to the same appointment. That not because I have to, because it's just fun. And that was a dance course where I could dance alone and no excuses. And that was really, really helpful to build up this routine. And eventually I also said I need to get into shape again. I let myself completely drop. Before I was in the gym, six pack all there, and then afterwards it was I I took my hoverboard to drive to the toilet. I was so damn lazy. It was horrible. So, um, so I went to the gym again, but also set myself a challenge and asked a friend and said, I know how to write a fitness workout plan. However, let's just do it together and make a YouTube video around this. That somehow gives me a structure that I pull things through long enough until I'm stable in myself again. So we did this as well, and that was also very helpful. Just to get on track again. But this was not the biggest shift. I mean, maybe we'll talk about this later, but the real change where I realized like going all in on this, on a beautiful life, on making it the best life ever without forcing myself on performance, because I still felt like I need to perform, I need to show something. Um, this shift happened a couple of years later when I literally left my country and started to, yeah, I don't know how it's called in English. So not migrating, but the opposite. You're demigrating. You're moving away.
You are migrating. You're migrating somewhere else. So yeah, that
Yeah,
works. That works.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's great, mate. I can see like so many things there that you're just putting in steps, finding something that brings you joy, going to dancing, wicked, and finding accountability, like calling on a mate to hold you
yeah,
accountable and get to the gym and train and move and just, take active steps to be a better version of yourself. I'm curious, mate. You've started, you dropped it in there. You talked about the bonus round, but you also talked about good times.
yeah.
So yeah, keep going with the story, man. Where did this take you from here? You're starting to get yourself back on track. You're starting to feel better about yourself. You've got this idea of maybe it's a new definition of
Yeah.
success for you. What you
Yes,
want your life to look like. There's
yes,
visioning happening there, which I love to hear. Where did it go now?
yeah. So having a goal was crucial. However, I still was chasing kind of the wrong goals. Because I thought like maybe I need to do things bigger. And at one point, I also realized all of that. I was in an how's it called? Elite business school. Uh,
Yep.
and yeah, I was opposed to all the ultra rich what like oh, if you had all of that, then yeah, it's not much better though. That's the issue. So that's what I thought, what I saw. So I realized that this is not for me. To pursue just numbers, it doesn't make it better at all. And I went on a semester abroad. That was on purpose. I chose to go to China back then, on purpose to learn from a culture that has its structures, but is completely different than my culture in Germany, that also has its structures. But as I could tell before, my structures apparently, or the way of living, is not really the thing that brings the highest way of fulfillment. So maybe I can learn from something else where it's functioning but differently. And what I did there was I traveled just with a laptop, and back then it was still you needed a big computer to do some proper stuff. And yet, while I was there, I said, okay, I'm just here for 5 or 6 months. So let me immerse myself in a different lifestyle. Let go of the things you think you can do. For example, I was great in video editing. A previous business of mine was a branch of it with video editing, and I didn't do that because I didn't have my computer with me. I actually prepared it to be shipped, but it would have taken as long as I've been there. So I said, let's just drop it and tried what else can I do? How else can life be? And I started deeper and deeper reflection. And I started also to love myself more. And eventually, when I came back to Germany, I thought like, okay, I'm leaving in a few weeks again. But one thing I noticed is that my life satisfaction abroad with one luggage was kind of on a 10, while in Germany with everything was kind of on a 1 or 2. I thought like it's a great thing. From a 1, oh, nice, I have a little bit more, now I'm on a 2. And I thought it's a 10, but then I saw the comparison. I saw what it actually can be. I felt how it can be completely different. So for me, it was clear, rational thinking, the the factor of possessing things is not contributing to high life satisfaction. So I sold everything. Every week, people came from eBay and picked up my stuff, and it's just okay. Now it's literally my apartment is empty, and going back is becoming more difficult than going on. And I went on, and eventually I yeah I left my country completely, and just it was during COVID, and I just flew to Thailand. It's not like I went for the place that brings the best party. Actually, I did it very, very rationally and analytically. I made a country analysis of all the countries that were currently open, calculated the GDP growth of the recent years and which has the highest opportunity that is mostly attractive for foreign direct investment, that foreigners who created a free life would be attracted to be there. So from all the open countries in the world, where especially Asia, where Thailand and especially Bangkok, the most promising place, where I put myself also in more or less a luxury condo that wasn't too expensive. It was actually very affordable. However, the chances to meet someone who gives you a different perspective on how to live life and can guide you was quite high. So I went there, and that also happened. I got some more impressions. And it was still during my master's degree. So, I mean, I didn't have to go to university. It was my master thesis. I was basically graduating years earlier, but still were writing on my thesis and my research. And I was consulting already on the side and had still my business and marketing. However, after I graduated, I say I'm cutting everything, and I'm taking some months off to really set a new goal. And I found before, as I said, setting a goal is incredibly important, but it got to be a right goal, and it got to be a goal that is highly resonating inside of me. And before I went on the trip, I had a session with a coach who asked me which direction I want to go. And I was telling him, yeah, I think like, yeah, here I could inspire people around marketing and blah, blah, blah. And then he kept asking me, and somehow we drifted into what excited me in the past and what I found as meaningful situations. And as I gave speeches, how old have I been? 6 years earlier already, when I was 20, I started giving speeches for my university and represented Eastern Germany for higher education. And when I gave those speeches, I sometimes dropped some personal perspectives on doing something that is good for you, that you actually like to do, not what someone tells you. I was promoting this idea already back then, and before I also lived my life like this. And people told me years later, they saw me somehow randomly on the street and came to me and said, hey, because of that sentence, I changed my life direction. Or because of what you said here, I went home and told my parents, I'm not going to go in that direction. I want to do that. And it was the best decision of my life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I captured a lot. Some people wrote me, and I captured all of those screenshots. And I felt like, this is good. This is fulfilling. I contribute something meaningful. It means something to people. It's not like in the corporate world where I was used to, thank you, or thank you so much. And you know exactly there's zero emotion behind. And no, if you really make an impact on someone, there is an emotional reaction. And so while I was talking about this with this coach, he was giving me a mirror on it. Said, you have shining eyes when you talk about that, and when you talk about marketing, you can pretend, but it's definitely not the same energy level. And I said, that's okay. It makes me think. So I drafted a vision statement prototype. And so, what is my vision? Basically, in a one-liner that is easy to grasp. And then I went on a trip with a motorbike alone, shut down my phone, told my family, and said, don't ask where I am, somewhere. And I've got to reach out when I arrive. And I was 26, and it was an insane trip also. Between some Airbnb just was closed, so I was driving around, tried to find a place, and found someone said, yeah, there in the back there is someone Earth House Living community. And I drove there in the forest, and there was just one guy, and he looked like a serial killer. And and I said, you signed up for that. So I was dating a girl to the time, which is now my girlfriend, and I just wrote her. It was the only one who I had contact with, and said, if I'm not replying tomorrow morning by 9 a.m., send the police. That's my location. So I went there in this house and he said, you can stay there, it's no problem. And opened the door of a wooden hut and said, okay, you can stay in there. And then suddenly he looked in the wall and took a towel and holds something and puts it on the ground and steps on it. And it was such a huge pregnant spider with 1,000 little spiders running out. And he just puts it aside and says, that's your place for tonight. And I said, all right. So anyway, he turned out to have had, I think it's interesting for the audience also, he turned out to have had a really like success life in the Western culture before. He was a club owner, not of one club, but I don't know how many clubs. It was a lot of clubs. He was constantly on parties. He was big in business. And then he also dropped all of that and eventually said living in nature is all that's needed. So I slowly stepped into that direction to find more. And eventually I kept working on my vision statement and mission statement and eventually finalized it, strengthening it from two perspectives. The one is, what would I do that I want to avoid that happens? But most importantly, what would I do if I don't have to do anything that I just want to do? And as I put myself on this trip and pretending that I don't have to work for the rest of my life anymore, so basically letting go of all the must-haves. I told my colleague, make a pause, you can keep working, but I'm on holiday. But I really felt like, okay, it's getting very fast, very boring. And what would be meaningful? And I played in my mind through a scenario that helped me to clarify the purpose was, if I had a daughter and she grew up and I know her growing up with excitement as a child is usually, and it's amazing to be alive and doing all of those things. And fast forward, she is 25 or so and just visits me as a father. And I'm asking, how is life going? How was your week? And I would witness when she says, yeah, well, it's work. That's how it is. Huh? That's work. And I like all the spark gone. I would be devastated as a dad. And I said, this is high to avoid. And I mean, with all my insights in marketing, in international management, I also knew that our society is built around basically killing your spark. And I said, nah, I got to do something about that. So I clarified that vision and a vision statement and a mission statement, which is a bit longer, but if I had to pinpoint it, it was basically helping people to create a life they truly love living. And for me, it was a vision. That was my mission. And for me, the vision was like being excited every day, waking up and loving who I am and with whom I'm spending the time and being inspired by those people and believing in what I'm doing. And this was my compass. And I called that also my life compass, printed it out and signed it as a contract with myself. That's my commitment for life. And it was very, very helpful.
I love that, mate. There's so much to unpack about what you just said. I appreciate you sharing that story. I see that energy when you were talking and when you started talking about the things that brought you joy in comparison to marketing. We can see that energy right here, right now. And it's amazing, like how many guys don't pick that up. Like when what the things they talk about, what brings them energy, what brings them joy. What I'm also curious about is like this. There's so many times where I think you've changed jackets. You've been in a certain role, you've had certain pressures on you, but you've been able to take that jacket off and go, you know what, that's not for me. I'm able to step away from that. I'm able to let that go, and I'm going to go and explore this. It's like this massive identity shift, but it seems like somehow you do it with ease. Because I feel a lot of guys get trapped. We feel like I'm stuck here. I've got to keep working. I've got to keep grinding. I've got the mortgage to pay. I've got X, Y, Z. How do you do that? What do you what do you put that down to?
Well, I thank you for that mirror. That it appears like I do this with ease. It's not always with ease. Meanwhile, it is with ease because I found more. I ask more myself this question: who am I? And put myself in different situations and challenging myself: am I capable of surviving here? So, for example, one time I've been on an island that didn't have anything with me, and I stuck there because of lockdown suddenly. I said, okay, what can I do? Let's just challenge yourself. What do you have with you? Okay, you have a body. People say you're handsome. Let's become a model. Bought a book, etc. Signed up and became. That was I think was a challenge for myself. Like, is it possible? And then I'm introducing myself. Hi, I'm a model, and that identity, like, hi, I am. That can be very powerful, but also incredibly disadvantages when you say in China, I don't know, it's worldwide this issue, but in Shanghai, it's just stood out to me. Everyone is asking or is introducing themselves. Hi, I am an accountant. I said, cool. That wasn't my question. Is that your job? And then they asked me, who are you? And in between, I didn't have any identity. Couldn't give a label on it. People were asking, okay, everyone introduced themselves. Hi, I'm an accountant. I'm finance consultant or whatever that is. And then was me, and hi, and I said, I'm a curious kid, and just let it. I dropped it here, and they said, okay, and what you doing? Yeah, I'm living here, and I'm traveling, and I said, and actually I learned that it wasn't a strategy. I literally didn't know what label I should give myself, but I learned that also from a lot of rich retired people who didn't have to work. I asked them, who are you? And they couldn't give me a label. They said, oh, you want to know what, when I kept asking, you want to know what I'm earning my money with? That's a different thing. That's not my identity. So it was really difficult for people to also understand that when I said, who am I? But before, I would like to give credits to the people in my life who made me aware of when things didn't suit me. It were friends. When I told you the story where I led the bigger team in Germany, and I quit after 2 months after I realized that. So I was there in total for 3 months, but I quit after I realized this quite fast. That was, I had a dinner with my friend coming over, a guy, and we somehow went through previous projects of mine where I was creative with music or videos. And he was an employee of mine. I employed him before. So he was part of my team, or one department of the teams I led. And so he knew what I'm doing. And he said, dude, and that is, what are you doing here? Why are you in this? Why are you doing this? I mean, you can be trained to be a manager, but what you're doing is something different. And that really, like, thank you for that mirror. So it was here and there people who reminded me of if something is not fitting with me, or if something else sparks more light.
Yeah, moving towards that, mate. And I love how you inquire, because I think so many of us get stuck and we don't do that inquiry. We don't ask, who is the man I want to become? What am I enjoying about life? What am I not enjoying? What can I let go of? We just keep pushing through, and we just expect, oh, this is just part of life. This is just normal. I just have to accept this. And we don't look at, the different paths we could take and the choices that we have. They might seem limited, but, in your experience, there's been a wonder of choices,
It
and
is.
you've made it to where you are right now.
It is.
And I'm grateful for you sharing that story. Let's move on a little bit. I want to hear about, this good time ratio, where this came from, how you developed this, what's going on here, man.
Yeah, that's a very fascinating topic, and it was eventually the question, like, what is it that all of us want? So after I got my mission and my vision and mission statement, I was wondering, okay, how can I do that? And I was I have interviews. I interviewed different people and from different places and different branches of life, from kids to monks to CEOs and all of that stuff. And I was wondering, what is it that all of us want? I mean, I want to learn from the people who are successful, that I can improve myself. However, what is success? And the guy who had a lot of money seemed not to be really fulfilled sometimes, and the other guy who didn't, not necessarily wasn't fulfilled. So um, I also used a couple of coaching techniques and coaching tools, like the Wheel of Life. I don't know if you heard about that. It's, for the audience who doesn't know it, it's it's a diagram, more or less, a circle with, it has different different categories, but usually 8 categories that define your life, where you can work on it and say, okay, how satisfied am I with my career? How satisfied am I with my significant other? How satisfied am I with my family? But the issue with that is it assumes that you have a career. So a retired person can't really fill that. It also assumes that you have a significant other. And if you don't, then are you unhappy? No, it's not the case for many. So I was wondering what is the common denominator that all of us want. And I could pinpoint it to literally every effort everyone ever did was to maximize their good times, whether they were conscious about it or not. But it was this idea of, I'm doing something that gives me a good time now, or I'm compromising on the good time now to have a good time for later, or I try to make both. And that is, of course, the ideal, to have this, whatever I'm doing right now is so great, I want to do it, but also have a good time later. And the more I went into this and researched on it, is this really the case? Through different cultures, through history, through philosophies, I realized, yes, every philosophy basically has the same objective, to maximize good times. And that also means that our whole economy is built around this idea, and everyone who is working has this objective on mind. And then I got insane and I thought, like, oh no, I came insane later. I was wondering what are the factors that lead to good times. So there must got to be some factors that say, if I'm doing this, then I'm ending up having better times. So I wanted to learn, like, what is the most effective way to get through life to maximize good times. While I was experimenting, I got a recommendation to do a PhD, and just dropped an application and got accepted with a scholarship. And while I was looking for starting to try to find out the factors and build the framework for the research, I realized, okay, I need to measure it accurately, that we can be sure that factor is literally resolving in a higher good time or a less good time. And that's the moment where I found it insane how we live life and how our economy is built, because I found we don't have a metric. So literally every action of any person, whether you go into a relationship or you take this job, you go to university, you eat this fruit, whatever it is, big life choices, aim for, I want to maximize my good times. And yet you can't tell whether something is doing it or not. We are guessing around, and even the whole economy, economic decisions are all around this idea to maximize good time for the population. And societal decisions even as well, governmental decisions, and we can't measure that. I said, this is insane. This is ridiculous, to drive crazy. People drive crazy and partly even commit suicide because of their choices. And it's all based on guesswork. So it's like a finance consulting. If you have a clear objective, like, I maximize your profit, or I'm increasing your profit, there's a clear number. You do A, it was increasing. You do B, it was decreasing. Okay, at the end of the day, what helps increasing the profit? But even profit is just a mean to an end to maximize your good times. So why don't we measure that? And I thought, like, okay, let's develop briefly one. It's a matter of a week or two. It's a no-brainer. It turned out to be 4 years. And it is a fascinating endeavor. So it was fascinating to develop it, and still I'm in the finalizing stage. And the metric I developed is the good time ratio. It's short GTR. While GTR is basically telling the proportion of the times you're attracted to versus the proportion of the times you're not attracted to. And this is not just, to clarify, this is for the listeners. If you have a good time, you say, yes, I want to be here. I want to have this. And if you say it's okay, that doesn't mean it's a bad time, but it's not a good time. I've been in the place of it's okay. That's what I told you when I was 20. It's okay, but it's not a good time. We exist. We manage our life to keep existing, not to live. And the fascinating thing, what I found later throughout the PhD research, is that good times. So I asked at one point the question, why do we experience good times in the first place? Why are we capable as an organism, as a human, to experience something like we say this is good or bad? And literally from a physical perspective, from a physical background, it comes from energy needs to flow. So whenever energy is flowing in an organism, the organism gets a signal to do more of it. And you can't expect nature to have that every animal has a frontal cortex to calculate that stuff hardcore and say, let's reason about this. Does it give me a good time? Does energy flow right now? No, it got to be very simple. So we have a feeling of it feels good or not. And if it feels bad, then it's very simple expression. Something is blocked in your life. So the better it feels and the more attracted you are, the more energy is flowing. The question is, does it sustainably flow? Because our society currently is built around this idea to hijack that, to exploit it, to give you the tastiest food that feels really, really attractive the moment you bite on it. And 1 second later, you regret eating it. And that's not a sustainable good time. By nature, this is not the case. In nature, the apple you're eating, if it's really sweet, it also means it contains more energy. And if you're really horny, that is usually a thing that you actually, it's good for the long term. It's replicating. And nowadays it has so many traps. So in that case, it's difficult to navigate life, meanwhile, to make smart choices that give you a good time now and a good time for the future. And to simplify that, it became obvious to me that if we measure it, we can improve on data. And that's where I built later the GoodTime app. It's currently a prototype as a web application. It's on goodtime.app, where we assess the good time ratio, but also pinpoint what is contributing to it. So basically, where in your life is energy blocked and where in your life is energy flowing. And that's basically what, with a dashboard, you have basically this mirror, what I've got with a coach before, where you see black and white if you do this assessment a couple of times throughout some weeks. See black and white, like this is not serving me, and my energy and excitement is much more on that side. And we tested it now with a couple of, with a bunch of users, live introductions, live video calls, and the feedback is astonishing. They say it's like, how do you know that this is exactly that aspect and that person in my life that drains my energy the most? It's like pinpointed. So it's working. You can navigate your life based on data, and we remove the guesswork. But the goal is to maximize your good time. That you, at the end of the day, you truly love your life.
Fascinating, mate. What an interesting PhD, and what hard work it must have been to try and figure out how to measure this and put a metric on it. I like the way there you said about the okay times. I think a lot of us get happy with life, or we get stuck at life and we think, okay, life's not bad. It might not be great, but it's not bad. And we sort of accept that this is life and we go along with that journey, not thinking that it could be any better and not thinking that we have choice to make it better. You talked about the factors that equal the good time, or the figuring out some of the elements that equals the good time. Can you give us some insight on what you're measuring there, or how we're calculating this ratio of good time?
Yeah. So the foundational question is, where does energy flow? So to what can we be attracted and what can we be repelled from? And from a human being, and it's funny, it's not just humans, it's actually any animal. There are only 5 life areas. So in 5 areas, I'm going to explain them in a moment, you can feel attracted towards or you can be repelled from. And that is nothing else but the representation of, is anything, which area is blocking your energy versus releasing your energy, and which supports energy flow or which blocks energy flow. And if you measure all of those areas at the level of attraction, you can pinpoint where to improve. So the areas, I like to describe it as a metaphor that life is a game, which actually, by the way, as we talked about the story before, helped me enormously to start thinking about life as a game. Like, it's here to be played. And if life is a game, it's not the goal to get to the end. It's about having as much fun as possible. And there are no rules, and no one can tell me those rules because no one knows it. So what are the rules? I had a question. And the rules can be linked to everything that frees energy you should do, and everything that blocks energy, try to unblock it. That's kind of the game rules. So the 5 areas, life is a game, is number 1, you're the player. That's one area. So how attracted are you being with yourself, being yourself? I can get into depths a little bit later, what the self is made of. Then other players. How attracted are you spending time with other players? And then the things you're doing, the actions. How attracted are you doing the things you're doing? It can be something just for leisure. It can be something you do for work. Work is nothing else but an action that links to the next area, the things you get. So if you're working, then you're usually getting a resource as a return. And how satisfied are you with the things you're getting in your life? And it can be any kind of resource, even love, acknowledgement, attention, or money, or your house or whatever. That's the 4th area, the things you get. And the last area is the map, so your environment, where the whole game takes place. And how attracted are you spending your time in those areas? So the common denominator, or the common line between all of those is time. The time you're spending. It's not about, am I attracted towards that person? This is not the question. Am I attracted spending time with that person? Do I like to spend time with that person? It's not about, do I like that work? No, on the day itself, do you enjoy, or do you feel attracted to doing that work today? And we treat things like they are consistent, they are stable. Like, I need to love my work every day. No, work is an action, and we measure from moment to moment. Past doesn't exist, future neither. The only thing that's real is the present. And if you measure today, I don't really feel attracted to do the work, that's worth thinking about it. Maybe just today, do it a couple of times, and you see over weeks, I really have an average of a 10% GTR of my work, good time ratio in my work. That's a strong indicator. That's not attractive. And in other words, also, you're sabotaging yourself if you think like, let me push through it. You're not going to be as successful, because if you're not attracted to it, energy is not flowing, energy is blocked. You're not doing the full work. You're not as effective. You're not as productive. So being attracted towards your work and really, truly loving it makes you inevitably more successful in it, because you want to do it. So I can briefly summarize or repeat the 5 areas that anyone listening also can ask themselves. Ask yourself this following question. Do I really love who I am? Do I really love with whom I'm spending my time? Do I really love what I do in my life? Do I really love what I get in my life? And do I really love where I am in my life? And if this is I'm not sure, then that's not true. I asked thousands of people around, do you like something? Say, do you like your work? People who didn't said, it's okay. Arguing with themselves, saying it's not bad. Actually, they don't like it, but I get something, so it's okay. So no, you don't like it. And then I also ask others, or ask the same questions to some people who love their job or love their work. I don't like their work job. And love their work is, do you like your work? And the response immediately back with energy, I love it. It's like a completely different reaction. And it does make sense, because love is nothing else but an unrestricted energy flow. So nothing is blocking the energy. And you can tell, because it comes as an immediate reaction, and it comes with the whole body reacting and expressing, I love it. And if you don't feel that, there's room to improve.
Yeah, exactly. So this is subjective in a sense. It's a little bit subjective to create the data, but we're just sitting there and we're asking ourselves these powerful questions about these 5 key elements, and we're giving ourselves a score there, or how is this working to calculate this good time ratio?
So we calculate it in the background with a formula. However, the input is simply these questions I just asked you. So we go through those 5 areas, and if you take the area of social for example, you would fill in the time, who got your attention. So you say, I spent time with, let's say James. I spent time with James. I spent time with whoever. So afterwards, you're asking, how did I enjoy spending the time with James? It's not necessarily about James. It's about, did I feel attracted to spending the time with James today? And then you're saying from a scale from I hate it to I love it. So I hate it. I really dislike it. I dislike it. It's okay. I like it. I really like it. And I love it. That's our current scale. We might optimize on that, but for now, it's proven to be effective. That people can find somehow their tendency towards it, and then they say, yes, I really liked it. But there were some moments that I disliked it. Okay, I also click dislike. But some parts I definitely liked it more than I disliked it. So I click more on like, and then you calculate already the ratio of the time you spent with James. And eventually the next question would be, how much time did you spend with James? And then in that case, we basically calculate in 24 hours the proportion of the time you spent with James and how you felt attracted to do that. The same for work, which in my case, for example, I had a pretty high GTR in between. And the recent weeks, I can honestly say my GTR drops a bit. And I realized that it's my sleep, because I stayed up longer and my sleep got worse. My sleep takes 8 hours. And I think, like, why is my GTR so low? Yeah, I spent 8 hours sleeping and I didn't enjoy it. Maybe I need to optimize on that part. So it helps to give it a weight. And in that case, if you do this with all elements in your life of a day, a snapshot of your day, you get a total number.
Interesting. Very interesting. Because it's like with I think a lot of guys have a self-awareness around certain things in their life that might not be giving them flow. They can feel blockages, but it's hard to put a number on that, or it's hard to score that. And some days it might feel okay, and other days it might feel blocked. And we just sort of go along with whatever we're feeling at the time. But to have it mapped out and to be able to see some data around that could be quite an interesting thing. Like you sort of say, over time, where are we spending that time? Where are we feeling good? Where are we not feeling good? Where are we feeling blocked? Once we get this data, like once we get this good time ratio back, like what do we do with that?
You optimize accordingly. Because if you say I don't know, spending half of my day doing something I hate, and you see this over time, that means, okay, if I want to optimize my good times, which is by nature the case that you do want to, then I need to change something about it. And if you can pinpoint at what exactly is the issue, then it makes it much easier to do. I'll give you a case study of one of our users in our first beta testing round. And before we had the dashboard, it was just the assessment. And she was doing fine in life. I don't know exactly the GTR anymore. I think it was around 80. And then she started a new job. And she reported to me that she increasingly dislikes it. It's a toxic environment, and so on. And then slowly she withdrew also in the contact. It was difficult to have connection because she was overwhelmed, etc. So 3 months later, roughly like this, we opened for the next beta testing round, this time with dashboard. And she did the test again. She was still on the job. And the GTR we call it the good time journey. The graph is a good time journey. So the good time journey just dropped drastically. Well, you saw two logs and it dropped. What we saw, however, is that all of those life areas, 4 of them, except of the self, dropped by 20 to 30%. So that was clear why it dropped. However, the self area dropped by 80%, 80 or 85%. It was a huge drop. And it made it clear that during the assessment already, she realized, actually, my colleagues are not really toxic. They support me even. The work itself is also fine, so I don't need to look for a new career. It's okay to do what I'm doing. The workplace itself, sometimes I like it, sometimes not. However, the issue was the expectations that came on her and what she thought is the expectation. So as a result, she saw crystal clear in the numbers that herself is suffering because she puts herself last. She dropped her workouts, she dropped her nutrition, she dropped her everything she needed to function herself. And that was a high price. And she even said, when she saw those numbers, oh, damn, this is not worth it. She quit. She quit actually the day before she made the assessment, because it was no surprise that it's not sustainable. However, seeing this made it also clear what she needs to pay attention to the next time. And it wasn't just an issue with the work. That would have also affected her next relationship, because she puts herself last. She pleases others. And seeing this is emphasizing and is stressing the attention on self-care. And that's the only sustainable way to do that. If you don't take care of yourself, everything else falls apart. You're the player. Don't forget that.
That's a powerful message to a lot of these men. Trust me, and to myself, it's like we can get so swept up in our responsibilities and all the things that we're trying to do. We often put self-care last. I know a lot of guys that put self-care last, and they feel guilty by self-care. If I go for a run, I feel guilty. Or if I, go and spend time with my mates, maybe I feel guilty. But it does have such a huge impact and carry over to all these other aspects that we're talking about. I'm so fascinated by the ability for this good time ratio to be able to pinpoint what's going on here. But the questions you must have set up, it's not a matter of just like how much time are you spending with this person or spending in this environment and how does it feel? Because that doesn't really give us a huge amount of insight, does it? It might tell us where we're blocked, or it might tell us what we're enjoying and what we're not enjoying. But it sounds like this actually starts to map out or ask powerful enough questions for us to be able to really dive into what is causing the block, would you say, or the blockage in the flow?
Actually, the questions are that simple as I just explained. And the data will tell you. It's surprising. We were mind blown ourselves when we saw how much information you get out of those data. And it's enough of a mirror for you to understand why things happening. It's for now, I mean, we're working on that it becomes a life navigation system. So literally something that tells you today you have 3 choices, whatever feels best for you, just choose. But all of those gonna end up in a long-term good time. And this is what we're working on. It needs a little bit more of coding, AI integration, what we soon do. However, for now already, it's built on the same data, and it's a mirror. It's a metric. Oh, this is slow, and you know why it was slow. You know what you did, and through the assessment, you even see what you did, and you're clear about this, and then you can say, what can I do about it? And usually people get an answer for themselves in that moment already. And if not, a coach would having a coach who has those insights can help you getting those answers. So yeah, the questions are pretty much that simple. Am I flowing here or not? And if you say you're feeling guilty to go for a run, it's literally, if you don't do it, you should feel guilty, because you're not gonna be the best version of yourself, and you're gonna impact the people you love, the people you would compromise on your self-care, you would affect them negatively. So if you really do it for someone else, start doing it for you, and you're gonna be the better partner. Not without reason. In the airplane, they say, if you're the mother and the mask drops down, put it on yourself first. You can't help anyone if you're done. So this is it. I mean, think about me. You said, I'm here today. Yes. So I'm privileged to share those insights, and that people ask for it and give me this feedback that it's life-changing. If I wouldn't have taken care of myself in between and literally put myself out of that stress, I could have not been here to give it. So it's crucial. Self-care is more than crucial. One thing I would...
It resonates well with...
Yeah.
I think it resonates really well with the story you shared at the start. You talked about your struggle. You talked about, hitting rock bottom potentially, then finding a goal, finding a purpose, finding things that brought you joy, connection with your friends, accountability, all these things that sort of helped you work your way back out of that hole at that time. And then, you just going with life and questioning, well, what do I enjoy? What is bringing me joy? You talked about the compass, which direction I want to head in. And in a sense, your journey has been this inquiring sort of phase of what brings me flow. And it sounds like you've captured that now in the app that you're designing, and in this good time ratio that you're starting to build. Where do you see this going? What's the future of your good time ratio?
Would like to answer this question in a moment, but one thing I got
Yeah.
got in my mind, especially for us as men and the men that are listening, is a good time. As good time means energy flow. It is. I found it as incredibly powerful to allow yourself doing the things that you say, this is freeing my energy. Sometimes people say, especially in a world in our generation that was basically raised by women, we believe that a woman can tell us what a good time is. And it's like, relax a little bit. But for a woman, a good time is different for a man. And if you don't push yourself to the limit where you feel like, I just need to run, I need some time alone, uh, I don't know, camping in somewhere, or I'm going with a motorbike 280 somewhere. It's whatever that is. Sometimes it's insane. So it's good to keep your energy flowing consistently, that you don't go for the beyond the limit for one time that might kill you. But generally, a good time can be generally translated as you letting your energy flow unrestrictedly. And as a man, I talk out of my own experience, and with the man I talk to, it sometimes means things a woman says that's crazy. And maybe another man who didn't understand that yet, or who didn't get himself out of the sofa for a while, says also this is crazy. But he doesn't have an idea. He can't feel it in that moment. He doesn't understand how good that feels if you push yourself to some point where you're saying this does. Fuck, I'm alive. This is insane. Like, wow, this was insane to do that. And I like to do this also with my coaches. Meanwhile, I'm coaching. I got asked eventually in between to really put them sometimes to a point where I said, I didn't know that I can do that. I didn't feel that what it means to really have the energy in my body and my mind flowing just in hell yeah, I can scream loud out. So it's important to do your self-care in a way that care doesn't just mean be gentle with yourself. Sometimes mean rock it.
I'm curious, Christian, if you can just throw in there, what is that for you? What do you find gives you flow?
It's just multiple things. I mean, sometimes it's literally this, I'm going careful. So what I'm doing frequently is I'm going on a solo trip completely alone to a random place where, um, yeah, like where locals are. I mean, I'm living with my luggage, and for good reason. I'm going somewhere, and so I don't have a flight ticket back. No way. And I'm staying there as long as I feel like I want to stay there, and immersing myself in this. And this solitude is helping me a lot. I'm doing this frequently because if I have a lot of input, then I need to process it. And after a while, this voice in my mind gets quieter and quieter, and my inner voice comes to the surface, and I can hear what I need. So I'm removing all the blockages. In the same category of relaxation, I'm also doing breath work, which I find incredibly powerful, especially the relaxation breath work and meditation here and there. Um, the other things that I find on the other direction where I like to push is the standard going to the gym, where I'm doing it properly and feeling like, how much can I push this muscle? Can I go a little bit further? And noting it down and also improving on it. However, sometimes I just want to rock it and get a motorbike and just drive around. I mean, I had an accident in between. I wasn't so cool, so I'm careful with that. But it's, yeah, crashing with that, or doing a surf course, or oh yeah, playing the drums. I mean, I rarely do that still, but if I have the chance, I do it. And I'm still looking for some things that I'm saying this is much more of a hell yeah. Yeah, hiking I do a lot.
Experiences, man.
Hiking I do a lot.
I'm gonna flip the switch on that. That's awesome, and you shared a lot of great stuff there. And it sounds like you like to put yourself in a position of nearly being uncomfortable, and it's that opportunity for growth. If you're not uncomfortable, then where do we get that growth from? If we stick doing what we're doing, but
Yeah,
if we flip the switch, I was going to say, what takes your energy? What do you feel now drains your energy? What do you avoid?
I come to that in a moment, but I want to say I don't bring myself in necessarily uncomfortable situations, because for me it's a good time, got to be a good time now. But I bring myself in a
Yeah.
situation where I say I have control over myself. I'm not running away from it.
Mm.
I am comfortable more or less being uncomfortable. I'm comfortable going beyond my limit and unblocking those blockages, where I'm saying, let's just jump down from this 8-meter trampoline stage or whatever, or go into an ice bath, but calm yourself down and sit there and acknowledge that your body is about to die right now, but your mind understands it's not. And that isn't necessarily uncomfortable, because during it, the moment I accept it, and that's a key. If I'm having resistance inside of me, it's uncomfortable. But if I'm accepting it and I'm putting myself consciously into the situation, like ice bath, and that moment I feel amazing. It's fresh, yeah, literally, but it's amazing, because everything is tension on your body and blood is flowing and you're crystal clear on your mind. So this is not uncomfortable at all. Yeah. To answer the second question, what drains my energy? If I'm spending too much time currently with others, it's not particular people. If I'm spending too much time with others, and if I'm pushing myself in work too much and saying, I got to get it done, but my body tells me, or my mind, it's boring, I don't want to do that. And I needed to learn this, and Science of Good Time tells even this: attraction versus aversion. And when I walk away from something, it's always a bad time. And if I'm attracted towards something, then I'm having energy concentrated, and want to do that. But the moment it becomes unattractive, it's natural to decrease in energy again, and I need to get to a state of rest. So if I keep pushing, the only reason to do that is because I'm doing it to avoid a consequence. So I keep going, and if I do that for too long, it has a spillover effect to other life areas, where I'm compromising on food, where I'm compromising on movement, and compromising on sleep, and eventually a downward spiral happens. So this gives me a bad time directly if I'm doing this, and indirectly if I'm trying to compensate on it and said, it's not so comfortable right now, so it's not attractive, but I keep going. However, to make it more comfortable, naturally there come up coping mechanisms, like open some music, which I do rarely, actually. I avoid this. Or maybe you drink a second coffee, or whatever, those little things that make this uncomfortable situation more comfortable. The issue is most of those things, also unhealthy food, whatever, if I do that, it swaps over to, it has another effect on my energy flow eventually, because now I ate longer, I had a coffee, I can't sleep, all of that stuff. And then the next day I'm more drained, and then I don't do my stuff. So I need to do this stuff, and I feel like I need to do, so shit happens. So I pay attention to not do that, and clarify this also, and measure it with a good time.
Excellent. It sounds like it helps you build a map. Like, obviously there's times where I come to work and I'm energized with work, and it's great. I love to be here. I love to be doing the stuff I'm doing. And there's other times where work feels like a chore. It's, I don't want to be here today. But I could put it down to sleep, and I could put it down to maybe a late night, or I could put it down to maybe not eating properly and stuff like that, and be able to sort of see that and map that out. And I suppose it's like trying to find balance. So I like to always say trying to find alignment in life. Like, am I aligning my life with what I value? Am I aligning my life with what matters most? And it's and when I say alignment, to be honest, it's probably what you're calling flow. Like, if I'm in alignment, energy flows, and if I'm out of alignment, then I feel tense. I feel blocked. So I like that, and I'm grateful for you to share that. When do you feel that this Good Time Ratio app will be out and everyone can have access to it, mate?
Your audience has access to it already. So it's
right.
an MVP, it's a prototype, functioning though. So we onboarding the first 1,000 users now. And yeah, so you go on goodtime.app, goodtime.app, and make this assessment, and you can feel it. As a hint on that, it's the first assessment might take a little bit long. It might take much longer than the second assessment, because it's usually a question and a process you didn't do before. So it requires mental capacity to go through it the first time. We have experienced users who need 25 minutes for the first assessment. Eventually, the second takes 8. We recommended to do it frequently, once, twice, 3 times a week. You don't have to do it every day, except if you're really in a hardcore transition time if you're in your life, you say, I need to optimize every day as much as I can go, then it helps you to check in. Otherwise, twice, 3 times a week, and even 1 time a week can do the job well. So usually 10 minutes, first time plan with 20, 25 minutes.
Awesome, dude. As we come to the end, Christian, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think would be valuable for men in midlife right now who might be feeling stuck, might be feeling disconnected, who might want to be experiencing more of the good times?
Oh, yes. Guys, take time for yourself. Embrace it. I think it's so powerful. In my experience, it's so powerful. And every coach here I led through it has the same experience. And also aligns actually with the good time, science of good times. If you're too stressed and too tensioned, then it's the reason tension needs to be released. So going for more is an illusion. And if we consume a lot of things like social media, etc., our dopamine level is up anyway. So we believe we need to do more. The opposite is the case. Get yourself to a week or two. I recommend 2 weeks. At 10 days is a magic number usually, for isolation, for solitude, where you face time with yourself. It doesn't actually 100% need to be isolated. The point is that you don't distract yourself, that you don't run after the things for others. So if you're disconnected to yourself, it's usually an indicator that you don't hear your voice, that you can't feel yourself, which also means that something else is overlaid. It's not like you're not there. It's just something else. There's a layer above that you have a hard time accessing it. So removing these layers step by step is incredibly helpful. And those layers mean external voices, that no one else is talking to you all the time. You also avoid consuming videos, all of that stuff out. Put yourself in nature, helps it incredibly fast to calm down. At the first 2-3 days might be quite uncomfortable actually if you've never done that, because you're feeling nervous, need to do something, want to do something. And yeah, the opposite can be also the case, that you're feeling like, I don't want to be with myself. I don't want to face who I am. But trust those people who did go through it, including myself. You eventually are fine on the other end. And what you find who you are is something very lovable. And eventually, if you embrace that, you find very much inner peace and you get a lot of clarity. So I can just highly recommend go on a solo trip, connect with yourself as it is. And if that means don't connect with anyone else, that's also fine. And if you do that for a while and you only have to please yourself, you're also realizing what you actually need in your life and what you don't need. And a lot of things we stress ourselves out is stuff that's nice to have, and we treat it like it's a must-have to survive. And if you understand you're fine with little, you're taking the control from others away, that pressure you, what you think you have to do. Yeah.
So good. So good. Thank you for sharing that. And I think you're so right. There's just so much noise in our society these days, and we're getting hit by so many distractions all the time. And just creating space to do that inner work and connect and really understand who you are is such a great place to start, and such a powerful message. Christian, if guys want to get in touch with you or they want to find out more about what you do, you've already mentioned the website. Is there any other resources or places where they can connect with you?
Yeah, they can visit my own website. It's chrisw.co, chrisw.co. I'm currently setting up some social media channels. No idea how to manage that for now, but yeah, there are some. They are somehow linked also on the website, so you can get in touch with my website. And there's also a newsletter that I try to entertain a little bit more the next weeks. So reach out, give me a feedback. Also, when you found that interview helpful, I love to get a personal message and get a feedback from that. And if there's any question, I'm more than happy to answer.
Awesome, mate. Truly grateful for your time and for you sharing your message, mate. It's a wonderful story, and I wish you all the best in the future with the good times.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. It was a pleasure.
What a conversation. I feel that Christian's journey is a powerful reminder that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, and that the real wealth is found in energy, joy, and connection. If you want to explore your own GoodTime ratio, head to goodtimes.app. You can also connect with Christian at chrisw.co. If today's episode hit home and you're a man in midlife who's ready to reclaim your vitality, purpose, and direction, come and join us inside the Midlife Mavericks school community. It's completely free, and you get access to online courses, live conversations, and a brotherhood of men doing the work. Because we are the sum of the people we surround ourselves with. And when you've got the support of other men walking the same midlife journey, you'll be amazed at what's possible. You'll find the link in the show notes. Until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and keep leading yourself first.